Don't forget, you can reach the latest episode of Potomac Watch anytime. Just ask your smart speaker, play the Opinion Potomac Watch podcast. That is, play the Opinion Potomac Watch podcast.
From the opinion pages of the Wall Street Journal, this is Potomac Watch.
Welcome back. I'm Paul Gigot with Elliot Kaufman and Joe Sternberg. And speaking of Iran, the real question here for me, Joe, one of the big questions is how much on the back foot is Iran right now? It's been empowered by tens of billions of dollars across the Biden presidency by the failure of Biden to enforce oil sanctions. That manifested itself, I think, in the unleashing of its proxy network against Israel and an attempt to blow up any Saudi-Israeli condominium. But wow, they now have seen Israel being able to take out the leadership of Hezbollah, which is really almost a branch of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. Certainly Nasrallah was essentially the equivalent of a general in the IRGC. And the Houthis are continuing to fire in Yemen and are really dominating shipping in the Red Sea area. But Iran itself watched Israel take out, as you pointed out earlier, a Hamas leader in Tehran in an attack that hit his hotel room or his guest house room. Extraordinary intelligence there. They also showed in response Israel did in its limited but targeted response after the attack on Israel in April by all those missiles that Iran unleashed, that they can hit a target in Iran with real precision. So is Iran on enough of a back foot here that we should, and by we it means the United States, the West, and Israel, press an advantage here to get Iran to make some concessions on its nuclear program? And I want to listen to a tape here before you answer. A message from Netanyahu to the Iranian people. Very unusual. Let's listen.
Don't let a small group of fanatic theocrats crush your hopes and your dreams. You deserve better. Your children deserve better. The entire world deserves better. I know you don't support the rapists and murderers of Hamas and Hezbollah, but your leaders do. You deserve more. The people of Iran should know Israel stands with you. May we together know a future of prosperity and peace.
Could this, the last week's events, upend the security calculus regarding Tehran?
I mean, it's entirely possible. Again, going back to this broader issue we were talking about a few minutes ago of what the Biden administration wants in all of this and their desire for this not to explode right before the election. I mean, certainly that would have been a lot easier to achieve if they hadn't spent years trying to pursue this policy of reviving nuclear negotiations with Iran. So I think that sort of we're in this situation now partly because of mistakes that the Biden administration made earlier in its term. Now, I mean, come to the present day question of exactly how wrong-footed or otherwise is Iran. I mean, one thing to keep in mind here is that if Iran wanted a direct confrontation with Israel or anyone else, it could have had that years ago. There's a reason that they have wanted to operate through these proxy networks that they've built. And that's because, even though you know and I know and Netanyahu knows and even Joe Biden knows these groups are proxies for Iran, they were still one level removed. And so I think that, the fact that Iran has always been shy about any kind of direct confrontation, I think is a sign that they are not going to be keen to start now, precisely the moment that Israel is showing that it now has this capacity to deal so effectively with the proxies and also to reach into Iranian territory if needs to. And, this is also, we tend to forget, a vulnerable moment for the Iranian regime at home, precisely because after the mullahs have been in power for more than 40 years, you have a lot of economic tension home, you have a lot of social tension developing within Iranian society. So I think this is not a counsel to get out ahead of our skis, as you might say, or to assume that recent successes guarantee future successes. I think that this is still a very dangerous moment for Israel and its allies, but we do seem to be getting these hints that perhaps Iran is not the dominant force that people once assumed that it was. And, perhaps we don't need to be quite so fearful of them and need to understand that there are advantages that you can press against the Iranian regime and that you might need to.
My view would be if the Houthis, for example, decide that they're going to continue to shoot at American naval ships, we ought to take this opportunity to hit back in a major, major way against their missiles, against their launchers, against their military assets and their leadership, because we have hesitated to do that so far, again, out of this fear of escalation. And if Iran decides to do something similar, we can take an opportunity to do something against Iran as well. Now, lurking in the back of all this, Elliot, is the Iranian nuclear program. And we certainly don't want that to go ahead, but we want to degrade it or get it somehow contained and under control to a much greater degree than any diplomacy is going to allow.
That's right. And Iran's nuclear program is defended in a very real way by Hezbollah. Israel knew that if it were ever to attempt a strike on Iran's nuclear reactors, Hezbollah is perched right there with all of its missiles ready to rain them down on Tel Aviv. But if Hezbollah isn't there with that kind of force, ready and waiting, then Iran's nuclear program is vulnerable. And I think Iran knows that. And it probably would have liked to have kept Hezbollah's strength just for another year, another few years, whatever Iran thinks it needs. And so Iran has a reason to try to postpone some sort of larger confrontation to the extent that that is possible. Israel might not let it do that, but Iran's nuclear program has been weakened by the successful attacks on Iran's larger proxy network.
All right, we'll leave it there for today. Thank you, Joe Sternberg. Thank you, Elliot Kaufman. Thank you all for listening. We're here every day on Potomac Watch with this fast-moving world of ours. Thanks for listening.